Okay, a lot to get to this week. I'm Jonathan Davis. I'm going to stop giving my credentials because I don't think credentials actually mean anything. I'm always wary of people who give their credentials too much because to me it either means that they're insecure or lack substance, which are both probably true of me, but nonetheless, I'm going to stop giving my credentials. And if you're tired of boring news that plays the same four stories over and over again on repeat throughout the day, you've come to the right place. And we'll start today with the same news story that you've heard over and over again on repeat on other channels. Nonetheless, I do feel the need to comment on this since I went to school for emergency management. There was an active shooter event in Idaho. 3 people were killed, but it would have been a whole lot more had law-abiding armed citizens stepped in and stopped it. Now, I'm here for it. I think those people were heroes, but I feel obligated to tell you what emergency managers would tell you, or at least tell me to tell you, when it comes to situations like this. Now, emergency responders are told, I know this depends on the SOP of your particular area, but the ones that I'm familiar with, the standard operating procedure is just to act. Don't hesitate, just go. However, I do want to make mention to one of the gentlemen involved in this, Jordan Salinas. This guy's a hero. There's also a woman who charged in and she was like feet from this shooter, and she deserves more attention because she was incredibly brave, probably the bravest of all the people who came to try and stop this situation. So some things to consider when you're involved in a situation like this and decide to act for the public good. Now, this is some advice that I'm probably not going to take myself, but you roll up to this situation looking for a white guy in plain clothing with a gun, and you see 3 guys in plain clothing with a gun. Well, it's incredibly difficult to identify who the threat is and who's not. So I listened to testimony from Mr. Salinas, and he had a good amount of time to prepare before making his way towards the threat. But if you have an extra half a second, it may behoove you to keep a vest in your car, like the one that was given to me by my state, which says CERT or CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, on the vest. It was a free vest. It was given to me. If you can afford it and you have a bulletproof vest and you get a patch that says CERT on it, that's even better. It doesn't really matter what the patch says as long as it looks official. Nobody knows what that means anyway, but it may save your life. Now, again, this is advice that I'm probably not going to follow. I'm armchair quarterbacking this whole thing, but you can see the issue. Additionally, you've got armed troopers rolling in and they're looking for a white guy in plain clothing who has a gun, and they see you firing off rounds in some particular direction. They don't know who's who. So you can understand the problem is you show up and you go, who do I shoot? Who do I not shoot? Typical life decisions, who to shoot and who not to shoot. One of my many dilemmas. So the guidance given to people by my state is if you can, take that half second to throw a vest on. It may save your life. Again, I probably wouldn't do that, but it's smart. All right, and next on my agenda, I have here this statistic which shows that crime is reportedly falling in major cities. Now, I studied criminology in school, and from my entire useless educational period, I can probably remember about 5 sentences that were worth remembering. And this is one of them. Criminal statistics are notoriously horrible. I personally just ignore them when I hear criminal statistics because it is too easy to fudge the numbers, and they are often fudged. There was a popular case in Pennsylvania, I think it was, where some representative, I think in Philadelphia, was busted for fudging the numbers. But here's why. Reporting crimes precinct by precinct is voluntary. At least when I went to school for this some 10 years ago or more, there is no federal law requiring local law enforcement agencies to report crimes. They report what they chose to, and they did not report what they chose not to report. And you can see how this presents a wonderful opportunity for very honest and trustworthy representatives. The second issue is that how many crimes go unreported in general? Well, we don't know what we don't know, so we don't know how many houses are actually being broken into, how many people have been victims of domestic violence. We just have no way of knowing that. Now, is it twice as many as are being reported to police? Is it 4 times as many? Is it 25%? More? Well, we just have no way of knowing. And so pretty much all the statistics around violent crimes are almost guaranteed to be wrong. And the next story of today is awesome. Robot reaches sealed passage inside Egypt's Great Pyramid. A small research robot has traveled through a narrow shaft inside Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza and reached a sealed barrier that may have been untouched for around 4,500 years. The discovery has renewed interest in what could lie beyond the blocked passage. The robot was sent into a passage measuring 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, and that passage extended 60 meters long inside the ancient structure. The Great Pyramid had been studied for centuries, yet parts of its internal structure are still poorly understood. Modern tools have offered researchers safer ways to examine areas that are difficult for people to enter. The exploration did not uncover an open room. The robot instead reached a solid wall or... What? Well, that's got to be the dumbest article ever. The article goes on to say that finding leaves the central mystery unresolved. Researchers still do not know what lies beyond the barrier. So you literally wrote an article to say you didn't find anything. We looked in a tunnel and didn't see anything. Well, I hope no one got paid for that article. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they have a full-time job writing for this company, and I'm sure that if you or I applied for that job, we wouldn't be hired for a lack of credentials. Well, note to self, don't ever read an article again from this website. What is it called? Analyticsinsight.net. And the next story is as if Land Rover didn't have a bad enough reputation with reliability. JLR hands U.S. Defender production to Stellantis. Not exactly known for reliability. So if you're in the market for an overpriced vehicle that looks really cool with the drawback of being notoriously unreliable, the good news for you is that production of this unreliable vehicle will now be conducted by another unreliable company. So nothing has changed for you. Now, why would they do such a thing? Well, it's actually probably an effort to avoid tariffs, and so you may actually be able to get a Land Rover Defender for less money now. So that's a plus side. You'll have plenty of money left over to spend on repairs. I will say, the Land Rover Defender Dakar seems like it's going to be pretty awesome. Stellantis, for those who are unfamiliar, is the company that produces Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Abarth, Alfa Romeo, Fiat, Lancia, Maserati, and many more. MBS, the Saudi Crown Prince, has done it again, completing the $8.5 billion green hydrogen plant, which is 5 times bigger than the island of Manhattan. Now, notable Arab companies have said they're trying to move away from this identity of oil and have taken to investing in many other things. And so this is just one example. The plant is said to go into production in 2027. The facility is made up of approximately 5.6 million solar panels. Alongside them are 257 wind turbines, all of which are designed specifically to power the hydrogen facility. Now, the footprint of these solar panels is just insanely huge. I've got a photo here on the screen. I'll make it big so that you can kind of zoom in on it. Florida man is at it again in Brandon, just down the street from me.
Florida man! Florida man!
16 arrests were made during one of these street takeovers, as they call them. Florida Highway Patrol troopers arrested 16 people Saturday morning following a street takeover on East Columbus Drive in Brandon. Troopers say vehicles blocked a parking lot to perform donuts. Oh my God! And stunts before trying to get away from arriving troopers. Okay, well, there's your problem right there. It's simply an issue of naming. Somebody put on blast donut meetup 2 a.m. in Brandon. It was basically a dog whistle for all the cops in the area. You gotta come up with better names for these things, guys. Investigators charged participants in the takeover with felony unlawful racing. Good night, is that a felony? Well, one driver faces aggravated battery for hitting a patrol car, according to Florida Highway Patrol. Okay, well, that's just little dad advice for all of you youths out there from someone who's not a dad. Don't hit highway patrol cars. Typically doesn't end well for, well, anyone ever in the history of the world. But sometimes people make poor choices, even when they know it's a poor choice. Like, why is it that people tailgate and then they like zoom around you and get right in front of you when it's like, hey, I can't go any faster, there's a car in front of me, but there's just enough space for like 1.5 cars in front of you, so they do something incredibly dangerous and get in front of you. All right, everybody in the world except for these people knows that they will not arrive to their destination any faster. This is simply an example of mental weakness. So I might even posit that these people who are doing these sorts of things do know that they're not getting there any faster. How much time does it take for the road passing under the back tires of the car in front of me to reach the front tires of my car? It's like 1/100th, 1,000th of a second. And it's always, you see these people doing these dumb things and then they wind up right next to us at the traffic light down the road. But the really disappointing thing is that these people are risking the lives of potentially children in other vehicles in order to get to Walmart. I'm absolutely positive they have no place important to be. But this is like a compulsion. Driving that way is because they feel uncomfortable feeling slowed down by other vehicles. And so this is their way to take action. But actually, if you want to practice strength, this is one of the greatest exercises in increasing your toughness as a human being. A lot of people overlook this, but try to be patient. This has an amazing spillover effect into other areas of your life. So occasionally when I'm on the highway, what I'll do is I will pick a lane and I'll decide to stay in it, regardless of how slow that lane is going and how uncomfortable I feel, barring obvious emergencies or what have you. But what causes traffic jams is people ironically trying to hurry, changing lanes, braking, gas, brake, gas. When you brake for half a second, the person behind you brakes for a full second, the person behind them brakes for 2 seconds, the person behind them. And then miles back, there's stop and go traffic because more cars don't actually have to equate to slower traffic. Believe it or not, all cars, like a train, could go at the exact same speed, but they can't do that and they won't do that because of people pressing the brakes, pressing the gas, brake, gas. So the irony about speeding around is that you're going slower and you're making everyone else go slower. It's incredibly selfish, but it's also incredibly selfish because you're putting the lives of children at risk so that you can go to Walmart and buy dish soap. So take the excellent opportunity to increase your strength, increase your toughness, take a deep breath, allow yourself to feel that uncomfortable feeling and let it pass. It takes a lot of strength. A lot of people don't have that strength. But I promise if you practice patience, it will spill into other areas of your life and you'll be a better person for it. And the lives of the people around you will also improve. So impatience is weakness. That's my advice of the day. Well, actually, Guy, I talk about yeah, but Guy a lot. But yeah, but Guy is my spin-off of what preceded it, which is well, actually, Guy. Psychologists say people who say actually before correcting themselves may be softening social disagreement. So take this example. Someone says, I think the appointment is at 3 p.m., but you know that it's at 4 p.m. But instead of saying immediately, no, you're wrong, try responding with, actually, it's at 4 p.m. That tiny word can make the correction feel noticeably different, while actually has a straightforward meaning when it refers to something being true or real. Linguists have also studied it as a discourse marker that helps speakers manage contrast, correction, and disagreement. Research suggests, that's always a tongue twister for me, research suggests that depending on its position and tone, actually can signal a discrepancy between what has just been said and what the speaker is about to say. I take issue with this research because it did not research other ways to present new information, which may be better. It just studied saying it or not saying it. But I'd like to suggest to you that there may be even better ways to express the same thing without actually. For example, one of my favorites is, have you considered, and it's always best to actually not single out somebody. Now, I say this as I was trained as a negotiator in the Army, and so I may not be an expert, but I'm at least somewhat competent, I would say, in human behavior and the study of human behavior. So, for example, I wouldn't even say you, I might say we. Talking about us as a team is far more effective. So I might, for example, say something like, can we consider for a moment, or let's consider the possibility that, let us see, because we're not debating, we're two people trying to figure out what's true. A Texas appeals court on Friday lowered a $50 million judgment against Alex Jones to $1.5 million. Now, Jones still faces a $1.25 billion judgment against his statements surrounding Sandy Hook. We clearly don't have freedom of speech in this country. Think what you want of Alex Jones, but this is really a crime, especially since if you have tracked the money here, which a lot of people have, they found that government agencies, I think it was the CIA actually, funded nonprofits who sued Alex Jones. And so we hear in the news that some organization like Mothers Against Violence has sued Alex Jones, but that's not really the case. The CIA has sued Alex Jones. So really just a shame that all this is happening. I don't listen to Alex Jones's show enough. Maybe I probably should. If nothing else, he's incredibly entertaining. What's crazy is the number of things that he was right about, as it turns out. Bear sightings are on the rise. Some people blame drought conditions. This week in Colorado, 3 separate bear attacks occurred on 3 consecutive days in the state, and the number of people reporting bear sightings in the state has doubled. I think this is incredibly cool. There are not enough bears, in my opinion. We've got to get back to the days when more people are attacked by bears. Bears are such awesome creatures. Well, alright, if you're in the market for a good book or even just a halfway decent book, check out Question Things by Jonathan Davis, available on Audible and Amazon. Both copies have mistakes, so it doesn't really matter which one you get. I make no money on these videos, I just am having a good time, so hopefully you are too. Stay tuned for next time. I aim for Tuesday and Thursday every week.